You do, huh? You got them when you retire, too? That's what you think. I'm not kidding you. There are people out there, they thought the company said, hey, don't worry, we'll take care of a pacemaker you want. We'll get you glasses, dental, that comes the note in the mail, not covered. Am I lying? No. Darn right, boy. We tell the truth here. Let me just go down the list. Meet Frank Quantrochi. He's 60. Listen to this. All he's done is work for a living all his life. 28 years at American Forest Products. They were taking over one of those big razzle-dazzle deals, right?
Right.
Kohlberg, Kravis, Roberts and Company.
That's
you
true.
were promised the benefits, health benefits?
That's true.
What happened?
Well, it just took them just a short time, about 6 years, to take one of the largest lumber companies in the world and just wipe it off the face of the earth is really what happened. They bought the company from Bendix in 1981, and the reason that Bendix sold them that company is because they had promised that they were in it for the long pull. There would be no changes throughout the company because they had no management people.
Yeah.
And they immediately, of course, started selling off the company to make their debt payments. That was in 1981. By the time 1987 or 1988 came around, they had sold off 90% of the company. They had cashed in the pension program. They had were trying to sell the very last remnants of the company.
Yeah.
And they then wrote everybody a letter stating that as of August 1988, there would be no more pension benefits for the retired employees. They sent them a...
no more pension?
I'm sorry. No more health benefits for the retired employees.
You should know that pension's covered, or is protected. You know about this. I tell you, I try to teach this audience, and they know everything. So don't miss the point here. Health benefits we're talking about.
Health benefits.
Health benefits at a time when a gray-haired person starts to think about those things.
Amen. Particularly if you've had a couple of valves stuck in your heart.
And you have,
like
haven't
that.
you? You've
Yes,
had the valve job, as we might
yes,
say.
I have a prosthetic valve, aortic valve.
Yeah. You do look good, I got to tell you this, Frank, but you can't eat that, and I know you're a guy that's got to watch it and do all those other good things. In any event, you're not covered? No health benefits?
None from that company whatsoever. What they did is they sent everybody a waiver, and they told them that if they would sign that waiver, they would send them some money to help them buy medical benefits. The money was just a very nominal fee, so out of all the employees, most everybody signed the waivers away, and some people did not sign the waivers.
Well, let me just stop you here. It was 25 G's, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So for 25 thou, they'll say goodbye to Frank and have no obligation to him at all. Incidentally, you were a management type, weren't you?
Yes.
What'd you do, run a plant or what?
I ran a plant, and I was also a regional manager for them, and I ran everything in the state of California for a number of years.
Okay, 28 years American Forest Products, which I suppose you're going to tell us used to be a good place to work.
It was a marvelous place to work.
Okay, so here you were, a white-collar guy, 28 years, and incidentally, the promise was made to you, health benefits until the day they come and gather at graveside.
Yeah,
Did they say that to you?
Sure. Well, in a matter of speaking, when they tell you that when you die, your wife has the medical coverages until she dies or remarries, as far as I'm concerned, of course, that's for life, isn't it?
Sure.
For life or when you die, whichever comes first.
Yeah, yeah. And if your wife would ever remarry another guy, you might as well be dead anyway.
I
Huh?
might as well be dead, yeah. I'll be back in the corner. Yeah.
Okay, we get it. The promise is made. So you're out of there. I assume you're playing a little golf. You get some ticker problems. They put it on. Were you covered for the heart work?
I was covered for the heart work.
Which was done before 81 or 80?
Yes, that was done a year before.
Okay.
Now, there was another little twister in there, too. The retired employees, as we retired, since it was early retirement because the company was almost gone,
yeah.
They offered a severance pay. And in the severance pay, they stated that if you didn't want to have the severance pay, you can fund your own insurance, but if you wanted to give them so much money, then you would fund it through that money. And a lot of people gave up between $16,000 and $25,000 to fund that program, which was also...
Yeah. Did you do this?
Yes, I did.
So rather than, incidentally, was your severance pay $25,000?
The severance pay was about $26,000, and I gave up almost $17,000 of that.
In order to be covered?
Right.
And now you're not covered?
No, and that sum of money was never mentioned.
You must feel like a sucker.
Well, I tell you.
Well, I mean, 17, you gave up 17. Incidentally, $26,000 after 28 years, that's almost the gold watch these days, isn't it?
Not quite.
I mean, that's not a lot of money. What year did you retire?
I retired in 1983.
28 years, they gave you $26,000.
Made them a few bucks along the way, too.
You gave them back 17 so you'd be covered.
That's right.
Now you're not covered at all.
Not at all.
I hope you're suing, Frank.
Yes, I am.
go through this. Anybody have a question? Yeah, what?
Bill, I'm wondering, do you think that the reason that they're having these problems today is because of the changes in the revolution in medical care and medical insurances?
That's part of it. Yeah, we should talk about that.
People were not educated or well enough to know what their benefits were before they were bought out.
No, it's not about their education. Let's understand this. These people were promised, till you die, health care coverage. It was in the little brochure you got, remember? In the personnel office. This boy, you got a job with this company. They were going to take care of you. And,
How many of us really know what our benefits are and all of those things? We really need to know all that these days.
But the companies want you to know. Here's what the CEOs, and incidentally, they wouldn't choose me as their spokesman. These costs are staggering. They can't possibly. The company will go, you can't. And you have any idea? 25%, 12, 15% a year going up. And if you're a company, some companies have more retired employees than others. New companies, the high-tech companies, 500, 600 people retired, maybe less than that. Bethlehem Steel, the old companies, Cold Industries, they have thousands of people that retired, and they can't afford to pay their health care benefits.
The company took advantage of them before they really knew what was happening here.
How?
Well, Phil, could I interject something here, being a General Motors
You certainly can, Leonard. You're Leonard Moeller. You are 62. General Motors, are you?
General Motors.
All right. Wait a minute. Leonard, how long were you with GM?
30 years.
3-0. Did you retire early by any chance?
I retired after 15 years, like about 40-some thousand retirees under a special early that was instituted, negotiated, through maybe a little bit of intimidation on GM's part for asking me and the others to leave at 55 and get a pension that we would have for our lifetime. Or the pension would be the same as when I reached 62.
Right.
They made up a special Social Security.
Yeah. How old were you when you finally quit?
I was 55 exactly, and the funny thing is I retired on April the 1st, and you know what that was, 1982.
You retired on April 1st, 1982?
Yes.
At age 55, and you got a nice little piece of change, huh?
Well, I got what was promised me over the years for the pension that I'd contributed to, and what General Motors over the years had promised me.
But they gave you a little incentive for getting out early.
The incentive, was we'll give you what Social Security will give you. They said, today you were 62 and I was only 55.
I see.
I said, great, for 7 years I'm going to use your money. Then I said to the personnel person, administrator that retired me, and I had booklets, I said, what about my health benefits, and all the other things?
Yeah.
Well, Leonard, that's understood. Them will automatically be with you for your lifetime.
I shouldn't be smiling, Leonard. It's not fun.
Well, and this is the problem and you got to realize that good old GM, and hey, I was proud to work for General Motors, one of the largest corporations in the world. You got to remember there's 84,000 salaried retirees that were never covered by UAW contract.
Non-union retirees.
Right, but now there's 312,000 General Motors retirees in the country.
Yeah.
I asked Mr. Smith at a stockholders meeting last year, why are you discriminating against 84,000 when there's 312,000? His answer was...
Roger Smith, chairman of the board, you got up and told him, right?
I go 2 minutes with him, and I hope this year on May 19th we're going to be down there again.
I'll look for you. Go ahead.
And, but his only answer was he could never answer the question that they were covered by, a UAW contract. You were covered by a handshake because all salaried people represented management.
Yeah.
Now let me put out
but what's this grievance, Leonard? What happened? Did they pull it out altogether?
All at once on December 11th, 1987, every retiree in this room got a letter stating that in order to keep you at a high, nice pension, General Motors was going to eliminate your hearing and vision and add costs, deductibles, and co-payments if you were a traditional Blue Cross insurable person.
They didn't do this to the union guys, did they?
Oh, no.
So maybe the union wasn't so dumb after all. They got it in writing. Huh? Is this your story?
A little different. I represent about 20 employees that retired from General Motors. I retired in September of 1982. We gave up as a specific negotiation, we gave up the supplemental benefit that he was given by General Motors Corporation. In return, in a release that was prepared by the General Motors Corporation legal staff, they incorporated a brochure where we had their right to take away benefits excised from that brochure. They incorporated by reference an employee booklet which stated that they did not reserve the right to change benefits. And the attorney put in the paragraph that no time after that execution of that release would they adversely affect our benefits, but would treat us the same as all other employees.
And what
retired, but they have stonewalled us for 2 years, never denied anything.
What is it you do? Now, they've returned glasses and hearing, have they not? Vision and hearing is restored.
You never know what they're doing.
Huh?
They change every 6 months.
All right, well, let's give them the benefit of the doubt, because we want to, let's not... Can I just grant for the moment that General Motors has restored vision and hearing benefits?
Only part
Yes.
of it.
Okay. Well, it's great. We're making some progress here. How then, where is the shafting here?
The shafting is when they start, General Motors Corporation, I'll be the first one to say, had the greatest benefit program of any corporation in the United States, okay? And I had the operations to prove it. Now, if they start in.
As in hospital operations.
If a corporation that holds itself or wraps itself in the American flag,
Mark of excellence.
the heartbeat of America.
Yeah.
If they can renege on a written agreement,
then there's the soul of the country. Where are we?
It's hypocritical.
All right. What have you lost? What don't you have that you think you should be you thought you had?
We lost the. In other words, they increased our deductible from nothing to $750 a year. All right.
I see.
Now, what happens next year when they want to come back again?
$750. You know, that's a hernia, isn't it? $750.
Probably a lot more.
Yeah, maybe it is.
Probably a lot more.
Wait a minute here.
Of course, you and I are not in any...
this isn't all this gentleman is lost.
But now, General Motors is saying $750 deductible eliminates a lot of the surgery that makes this cost overwhelming for the several thousand retired people to whom these benefits had previously been promised.
No, we don't have the full story here, Mr. Donahue. The $750 is for a family of co-payment and deductible. We have a comprehensive insurance which has another $300 deductible.
Yeah.
We have a 20% of $6,000 that we have to pay on this. If any person in this audience today, a General Motors retiree, went out and got married and had a new spouse, they no longer are covered by any kind of Blue Cross. They have to pay the full premium themselves. Allergy treatments, chiropractic treatments, we can go on and on.
All right. I apologize to you for not having more time for this. Let me get Roger Thomas, attorney at law. Where are you, sir? You'll stand. You're the attorney representing GM and retirees.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, just kind of wrap this up for me here. What essentially are you asking the court to do in behalf of your many, many clients?
Very simply, Phil, we're asking the court to restore their benefits to what they were at the time that they retired. Simple as that.
Now, but UAW had it in the contract. These good old white-collar guys, they're salaried. It's not in a contract.
Well, I think, Phil, when we look at the plan booklets, they promise lifetime benefits. I think you can talk to the retirees in the audience.
So you're saying the preponderance of the evidence is that they were led to believe, and here's...
It's written in their booklets.
Okay, don't leave me. I can't finish this without a lawyer. Thank you. Harry Whitaker. Here we go, Harry.
Yes,
me and
sir.
you, kid, for the next couple of minutes. Let me tell them about you. 66 years old. You're looking good. What is not so good is you have pneumoconiosis. That is black lung disease, and yes, you were a miner. You worked in the mines for 31 and a half years,
Yes, sir.
Harry.
Yes, sir.
Man, you retired in 75?
75. Yes, sir.
And you worked for the Peterson Coal Company in Virginia.
Yes, sir.
Not West Virginia, Virginia.
Virginia. The only one I ever worked for, Peterson Coal Company. Not another company. It was a very good company back when it was an old company. We could sort of argue around, get around a little bit and settle things.
Yeah.
But when Peterson Coal Company took over, our chairman of the board, Paul Douglas, up there in Connecticut, he don't even come down in the coal field. I'll guess you know what a coal mine looked like. And so...
what would happen here?
They promised us health benefits for life. I have it in a contract. Pensioners...
National Bituminous Coal wage agreement of 1984. I believe you. I believe it's in here.
Right there, if you want to.
You got it marked, do you?
Got it marked?
All right.
Right there 3 times. I want you to read it to everybody here.
All right. I'm good at this. You know, this is my work. I can do this pretty well. Such pensioner will be entitled to retain his health services card for life, subject to the $500 earnings limit. Upon his death, his widow will retain a health services card until her death or remarriage, subject to the $500 earnings limit. Feminists will be impressed with the language
3 times in 3 paragraphs there.
And they just, what'd you do, get a letter then?
I got a letter from a Pitch and Coal Company on around January 31st, or the latter part of January of last year, stating and telling me that as of this date, you have no more medical benefits. After I retired in 75, they carried me for 13 years health benefits, which they promised me. But when Paul Douglas took over Pitch and Coal Company, they started then, what my opinion is, to bust the United Mine Workers, to eliminate them.
That's another political factor.
And they're wanting to take the pensioners, the 74 pensioners, which is 1,500 of them, want to use them for a bargain cloud to get them to negotiate a contract will fit their use.
Right. Let's get this in. A lot of companies said, yeah, you got benefits. Don't bring the union in here. You know, you mention union to some of these guys, the blood drains from their face. So to keep out unions, yeah, you got them. Health benefits, yeah. Now suddenly everybody's old. They tell me in the next 20 years, over 50 is going to be double what it is now.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, boy. I'm walking a little taller.
Yeah, but you know, the sad part about that, the coal miner that has pneumoconiosis or black lung, there's not an insurance company that I know of in the world that will carry a coal miner. Our insurance is cut off.
So are you totally naked, no coverage at all now?
We tried to get insurance and nobody would cover us. Blue Cross Blue Shield said we will process your hospital claim for $79 a month. Then they forward the benefit of a hospital bill back to the United Mine Workers. United Mine Workers don't turn around and neglect their members. They stand by. I'm getting everything they promised me, but I'm not getting what Pitson promised me. I call this a broken promise.
And you're suing too, are you?
No, sir, I'm not suing you. I'm waiting on my leaders and see what they're going to do. That's what I'm waiting on.
Yeah.
Well, where's the government protecting labor in this country? Where is government?
No, this is an interesting question. You want the government to pay for this?
Well, they ought to protect labor.
We're already out there. You know, the United States government can't buy your lunch today.
The sad part about it.
They have a labor czar, and doesn't he protect the labor in this country?
The sad part about it is the government will not pay for this. You will pay for this.
So maybe we should vote other people into it.
Just one other thing. There is pressure now to force companies to put this liability on their books. At the moment, almost all companies pay as you go. In other words, when we retire, then if you make a claim, we'll pay you. If they are forced to put these liabilities on their books, it reduces their profits, makes it more difficult, for example, that makes them less attractive for takeovers, makes their stock less attractive, and depresses the whole business community. This is just one angle on a very complicated issue.
What is a coal miner that's broke down with pneumoconiosis, heart attack, high blood pressure, been mashed up in his hip, going to do to get out on the property that Pitch and Coal Company owns? If I get out on their property, they done notified me, I will be prosecuted. I will be put in jail.
You mean you can't? I
can't get on their property.
You may have an injunction against them?
No mean whatsoever. They sent me a letter stating that I could not get on their property. Said all United Mine Workers. You can't get on our property.
All right. We got everybody. I'll give you a chance here. And we have several people here who, at our invitation, came down because they find themselves living the drama that you're sharing with us at this moment. We're in New York City, and we'll be back.
To fund the benefits for the retired and definitely not the corporations.
Okay, the government, as you know, the government is us.
No, but I feel that the government with the taxes that, you know, these citizens, they've been productive citizens
All right,
all
from
their lives.
where do you want to get this money that we're going to pay for
From
these?
the taxes. That
taxes.
These citizens, that the retired people
All
have
right.
paid.
So
all their
now we're
lives.
going to have essentially what is essentially will be another Medicare bureaucracy.
Yeah.
All right, you're
I
talking
believe in that. I
about
don't
all kinds of in baskets, out baskets, who gets coverage, who doesn't, how old you have to be, how old does your offspring have to be, how long have you worked for the company? You go nuts there.
No, if they're, you know, at the age of retirement, they've been productive citizens all their lives.
Yeah.
They should be paid back by the government. The corporations can't, obviously, like, you know, the man on the panel said, there are too many people that they're supporting, the men and women that retired, as well as regular employees.
Right.
That it's the government that should pay them back for being...
Hang on a minute. I hope you can see your TV. Meet Karen Ignani. You're a health policy director for the AFL-CIO. Hey, the union's got along pretty... got a hand here. It's been a while since organized labor got a hand here. Speak. What should we know here?
Well, I think what you're seeing is these gentlemen come to the show. They're career employees. They began their service with the expectation, till death do us part. Right. And what we're seeing is that the corporations want to change the rules when it gets tough. When the costs go up, they want to change the rules. The promise was that they would see them through until while they needed their benefits, until the end of their lifetime.
Yeah.
Now, what we're seeing is that...
companies, pardon me, Karen, are saying this is more than tough. This is overwhelming.
But
You've got healthcare costs that have shot up exponentially, and a community of people who want the services that is doubling.
But
we can't do it, they're saying. There's not enough money in our till to do this.
That's a fair point. However, these gentlemen gave their lives with the expectation that they were going to get something back in return. So let me suggest they're separable issues. One issue is, what are they entitled to? And that's a legal issue. We've already heard about that, and that will be decided by the courts. The second issue is, you're right, this problem is bigger than any one corporation. And it is a problem that has to be addressed on the national level. On the other hand, we shouldn't necessarily excuse these corporations. We're, at this point in our society, exalting corporate raiders. They're using their pension money, by the way, which didn't come out in your earlier discussion, to buy those companies, and then the cycle goes on and on and on.
Say that again. They're what?
In the Georgia Pacific...
Let's talk about ERISA now.
ERISA essentially regulates the way pensions are delivered in this country. There's no comparable
what company went under? Studebaker.
Studebaker, right.
Studebaker went under in 1963, 5,000 people, goodbye, no pension, no nothing. The whole Congress got up, well, you can't do this, what is this, or you can't. And now they have laws which guarantee your pension. Guaranteed. Government guaranteed.
Let me suggest that that is not exactly right, although I wish it were the case.
Well, tell them.
The law does not require corporations to offer a pension. Corporations and unions, when they are collectively bargained, make the decisions to have pensions.
No, but when they're offered,
they're offered, then there are certain rules and regulations.
Okay.
There's no such law that applies to health care benefits, and that's why we're in the fix we are today.
Very good. Now, tell me, are you just saying that ERISA obliges companies to set aside money for their pension obligation?
Right, to pre-fund.
And you're saying that takeovers are often takeover people, the venture capitalists, are using this capital to buy the company?
That's exactly right. They terminate pension funds, and they use those so-called excess assets.
They do it every day, too.
Yeah.
That's right.
But all right, tell me, so fix this, Karen.
Well, we're trying to, as a matter of fact.
What is your RX here?
Well, we're talking about two different issues now. In the one hand, we're talking about a pension solution.
Right.
We're supporting legislation that has just been introduced last week by Senator Metzenbaum and Congressman Clay.
Which says what?
Which says that workers have to get a fair share of those so-called excess assets for employer pension plans. In other words, that employers have put aside to pay for their pensions when they retire. The workers have a claim on those assets.
Don't they get the claim when they enjoy their pension?
Well, that's a good question. What they get up to this point is you finish service, you want to terminate a pension plan, you're a corporate raider, you terminate it today, 1989. Take any one of these gentlemen. If they're still employed, they want to compensate them, give them an annuity, for example, the magic word, up to the point of today, the point of termination of the pension plan. They would get no credit for future service. They're still in the plan. They still have some expectation of salary increases, inflationary adjustments, and so on and so on and so on. Those
the companies are still there.
That's right. Those annuities do not compensate those gentlemen for that particular situation. So the companies, the corporate raiders, get the difference. They get the balance. We're saying no to that, and we'd urge everyone in the audience to support our efforts to stop this corporate raiding.
Look at this case here. It works just about like this. Here's a company that takes a very successful company and leverages it all the way. borrows $300–400 million to buy the company. Interest rates are 15–20%. They've got interest rates of the interest payments of maybe $75–80 million a year for
money in the bank, and they are enjoying the interest.
Right. No, this is the interest they have to pay on their leveraged buyout. Just the interest payments are like $75 million. Yes. And here's a company that never made more maybe than $20–25 million. So what they start to do is sell it off as they get to this part. The point is, a lot of these companies are not here as these employees start to retire or after they're retired a while. And this young lady says, isn't there some laws against them? I mean, you know, we vote these guys in. And what they swore to do, every one of them stood up there and swore to protect us and swore to protect the little guy. And that's what we are right here. We're the little guy.
We're talking about human capital.
We voted them in. You know, we should be able to vote them out. That's the problem. We can't vote them out every 4 years. So.
We've asked you, we have GM retired, salaried retirees, return the benefits to the retired. Yes, sir.
You'll be brief. I think the main problem here is that General Motors should look at the integrity of what they're doing. They're trying to sell cars and Mr. Goodwrench and car policies and protection policies, but yet when I was 18 years old, I went to work for GM. I was a management person all my life. I did all the work that they wanted me to do, and now they're changing my benefits in relationship to the medical program.
I'd ask you to just briefly explain to us, as a real live person, not a statistic, what is it you don't have now that really troubles you that you were promised?
The first thing when I retired, I retired under an early retirement policy, which was an option. And in that, they gave me in writing that for my lifetime, nothing would change, and they gave me the various things, which was major medical and the Blue Cross and Blue Shield and what have you. Then, as this gentleman said up there, we were denied for a period of 1 year our eyeglasses and, of course, the hearing aids. That was restored, correct. But under the new program, they have changed carriers. And the changing of the carrier not only gives us more of a problem when we're actually filing our claims than the first carrier did, but we have a greater amount of deductible, and many, many things aren't covered that was covered in the previous. So I'm talking possibly a $2,000 a year that I will have to pony up. And I don't think that well, first of all, if General Motors has this problem of funding it, if they had a problem which they could not sell a car, they would add another $2 to the sale of a Chevrolet and advertise it wildly, and the public would buy it, and we would end up with tremendous funding. But right now, they claim they can't do it, or they have to cut back, or they have to recess a little bit in spending, but they have the wherewithal that the government doesn't have to do it, GM could do it.
And you don't see anything wrong with charging another $1.50 for the car in order to accommodate
They do it right now when there's advertising programs. Every time you go in to buy a car, I'm sure there's something in there that covers the advertising program.
Yeah. Are you there, caller?
Yes, I am, Mr. Dunning.
Go ahead.
I am shocked. I am angry. I'm 30 years old. I can't believe that they're treating them like this. I have been shopping for a General Motors car this week. I will not purchase their products until this is resolved. I find it shocking. I think it's disgusting. And until I find that General Motors takes care of their people and follows through with it, I'm not going to purchase any more products, and I will pass the word on.
This agony almost sunk Chrysler, didn't it?
As a matter of fact, Chrysler has been a leader in calling for national health care reform
But there was
recently.
a time when it almost rolled over and died because of this responsibility, isn't it?
It's not just this responsibility. We could have another show about corporate efficiency and the magic word of productivity, and corporations want to blame it on the unions. They want to say that hourly workers are not efficient, not productive, when in fact they have not modernized plant and equipment until very recently. And they've given incredible bonuses to stockholders and corporate executives, and we have to put that all into the mix. So what corporations are trying to do here is shift costs to workers. But I want to expose that, number one, but I also want us not to get too carried away with that, because there are corporations out there that aren't even providing any kind of health care benefits, so they don't have any benefits to cut back. And that's an even far greater problem.
We have 37 million Americans, I am told.
37 million Americans with absolutely no health care protection whatsoever, another 20 million with so-called inadequate health care coverage.
Have you been to a hospital lately? Can you imagine being to a hospital and you don't have your little card? Sayonara. I mean, what do they do with you? You sit there in the banana cart, or what do they do?
No, you don't get in.
You don't get in.
You don't get in.
They transfer you.
America!
Donahue, they don't own
I
it.
hope the commies don't find out about this.
You're
By
not
the way, they have national health care in those countries that you
I'll give
mentioned.
you a chance here. You'll forgive me for this brief interruption. We'll be back in just a moment.
Where are the unions?
Where are the unions?
That's right. Where are they going? What are they doing?
What are the unions doing?
Where are these people? Don't they go to their union meetings and see what's happening to them?
Miss Ignati's responding.
Everybody ignores it.
Huh?
Go to a union meeting.
They're not union. These folks are salaried people. They're not covered. They didn't.
They should have joined the union.
I'd like to add on to Mr. Muller what he had said when I retired from General Motors in 1973.
Yeah.
And he called it intimidation. I call it scare tactics.
Did you take early retirement?
Absolutely. At
How old were you?
57. And I'm 73 now.
Yeah.
And when I was called in, we sat down and, we don't know if you have a job. We don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
You may not
How
have...
many years? How many years?
After 37, 38 years.
They sit after 38 years. They come in and sit you down and say they don't know what's going on.
Absolutely. There was no gasoline, the gasoline shortage and whatever. They shut the plant down. And, it was a scare. It was scary. So at 58, I decided to take the pension as I explained it. Well, here's what you're going to get. You're going to get Blue Cross Blue Shield for the rest of life for you and your wife. And at 62, you must report to Social Security, which would have been a reduced rate. Okay, so I did my part of the bargain. I went at 62 and signed in for Social Security, which is reduced rate. Now I get a letter in the mail that I have a reduced Blue Cross Blue Shield, whatever you want to call it, and I have both ends reduced.
Reduced in terms of coverage, you mean?
Right. Well, my pension and my Social Security is reduced. I would have never elected to retire if I thought this would happen.
Yeah.
I was 57. I had a lot of good years in me.
Yeah.
I still have a few more good years.
You do.
They don't own it. The pension company didn't only take the benefits away from the pensioner, they took them away from the widows and the children too. Yeah. And then whenever I settled with the company with pneumoconiosis, they turn around and then after I settled with them and the Labor Department approved it, they turned around and protested that I didn't have it after they paid me for it. And I had to get a lawyer to get my black lung for it.
Briefly, sir.
I, too, am a GM salaried retiree from Flint, Michigan. And I was promised at 55 years of age and almost 39 years of service, I started my 16, that if I would take an early out, that I would get my health care benefits, all of them for life. And after 5 years of being out, I got a letter one day, like Lynn Moeller over here, was my co-chairman, and our fight against this reduction in our pensions and so forth. Here we stand out here in left field, paying high deductibles, co-pays, and so forth. And so we decided to take this thing by the bull by the horns, and here we are on Mr. Donahue's show. And
This is very brief. In all due respect to my colleagues here, I don't want the public to feel that this is the General Motors show. But by that I mean, this is happening to a lot of people throughout the United States. It's happening every day. And what we really have to do somehow is get some legislation passed so that these are protected exactly the same way that the pension benefits are protected. And you're talking, the pensions are going to be nothing compared to the medical cost in this country.
I'll tell you what else is interesting. You know, the people with the funny paper who are buying companies, a lot of folks who bought the company, bought the company, $2 billion debt, whatever it is, have looked up to discover that the liability they now have for health care benefits promised by the company they bought, for which no funds were set aside, are so overwhelming that the company they bought isn't worth half what they paid for it. Because the liability was not reflected in the books that those eggheads use when they decide what a company is worth.
Bill,
I'll tell you, this is something.
I'd like to comment on that,
Sure,
too.
go ahead.
I think that we hear that a lot, certainly, and particularly in the popular press today. There are proposed accounting standards that is going to make the situation worse. You're absolutely right. What it does is shine a microscope on it. But they're also using that as an excuse to cut back benefits, and we can't let corporations get away with that. So we have to look to both the corporations to fulfill their promises and the government to look at leveling the playing field.
Could I point out that General Motors is a self-insurer? They can go out and get any company that they want. They've made a health, the HMO, the health maintenance organizations, they get a group of doctors. Now, don't tell me these doctors can do it more efficiently than a traditional man. If they're upset about the cost, go to these doctors and hospitals and say, we are not going to pay it. We'll get another insurance company. We'll draw all your people away.
In other words, use General Motors' clout to bring to bear the promises
They're paying
they made.
The premiums. I'm not costing them extra. It's the doctors, the hospitals, and the thieves that are doing
and
that.
We'll be back.
My father was born between the years of 1917 and 1921, and he has reduced Social Security benefits. And I don't know exactly what's going on with that, but he's having a hard time getting some of the money.
Yeah, he's called a notch baby. You've probably heard that term. It's probably familiar to lots of people. Congress realized in the late 70s that the formula by which they calculated Social Security benefits wasn't working, so that the trust fund would have been broke in X number of years. So they changed the formula, and they reestablished, not to get too technical, but rebased the formula. And that's the reason that those individuals are not getting as much as people who were born several years before them. But they're not exactly getting reduced benefits.
Are you there, caller?
Rates are still very much the same.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm calling from Massachusetts. I would like to say there's one organization that won't lose out on their health benefits when they retire.
Who's that?
That's the good old U.S. federal government.
Yeah. There are not a few people out there, proud Americans, all of them.
2.5 million federal employees.
I know that, but what,
The government pays half and we pay half.
Yeah, I don't know if, I don't want to be necessarily the one to say this out loud, but this is one of the biggest annual expenses of our entire federal budget.
Well, we pay part of it. We pay, we pay our share of the taxes, too.
Okay, I'm happy for you. Thank goodness hey, we got some Americans who haven't been shafted.
Well, all they have to do is...
Now, I ask you, sir, do you want the government to assume the responsibilities for the grievances herein mentioned?
Sure, why not? We pay enough taxes.
Okay, you want a 600-ship Navy, too?
You better believe it. If you don't want the commies
we got to have more jails, too. How much money you got?
Well, they take a lot of taxes out of me.
But you're willing to have them take more?
I'd be very glad to. I've been a federal employee out of patriotism.
The companies and the corporations have to pay for these. These people that we're talking about, the old people of today, they built these companies. They made them what they are today, and that should never be forgotten. And these guys, they should be made to pay.
You just what?
I would just like to say our medical benefits were completely canceled.
Are you a GM person?
No, I'm not GM. After about 6 or 7 months, we discovered that the company we had been insured with was obliged to offer us medical coverage, which they subsequently did. For 18 months, the premium was $48,000, which I think is excessive. Who can afford that?
$48,000. You'll need the coverage for the heart attack you're going to have when they tell you how much it is.
I think that saying that the government and taxpayers should assume the responsibility for medical coverage is ridiculous. The corporations who are paying people $3-4 million a year ought to take some of that money and give it to the people, the big shots, and give it to the people who are doing the real work.
Yeah, I see your point. Hold it, I got some wisdom back here. Yes, sir.
I'm a retired employee from the Singer Company.
Yes, sir.
And Bill Zirian, the raider, is taking it over. Singer. He's disposed of about 6 divisions so far. Right. And the chairman of our committee has wrote to him several times trying to get an explanation of what's going to happen to our health and death benefits.
Yeah.
And he's never answered the letters to date. So we don't know what's really going to happen.
Well, hope we got his attention here. Singer's gone, too. I mean, not gone, but sold, huh?
Mr. Donahue?
You know what? Some accountant owns Oreo cookies.
Mr. Donahue,
what's happening to this place?
Can I point out one thing, and especially with General Motors, they throw a scare into the people. They say, hey, if you don't want us to pay, or you pay deductibles and co-payments, we'll take away part of the cost of living or raises we've given you. A corporation as big as General Motors, they're not giving us anything out of their profit and loss statement or, out of the big executive's heart. This is pension money making money, and that's the raises we get. Now, if they didn't make raises that year, we wouldn't feel bad if we didn't get a raise in our pension check, but we do not want our health benefits to be touched. We want them restored as the day that we were retired and the way they promised us.
I want you on my side, honey. I got a break. We'll be back in just a minute. You waited. Hi.
Hi. My father died. Yes, my father died 2 years ago from asbestos.
Asbestos,
And he worked for Bethlehem Steel. And when he retired at 62, he began to get sick, and then he realized that he wasn't covered for any hospitalization or anything like that.
Yeah.
And he just died of a very, very bad death of asbestosis, which Bethlehem Steel doesn't even want to know him or have anything to do with him. He had just a small pension coming in, but no coverage, and left a tremendous amount of bills when he was hospitalized for 4 months. Now, we're suing them, but we're not getting anything from them so far. And we really don't know what to do. And I myself don't know what to do because us 3 kids are taking care of all the medical bills, whatever.
Yeah. How much were the bills? Just a round number.
A round number over $100,000 in the hospital.
Karen.
Unfortunately, this is a sad but very typical story, and it's going to get worse, I think, in our society today. The battle has been joined in the courts, so they're going to have to see that through.
Yeah. Are the insurance companies gouging those who are covered, or are the hospitals poorly managed and unrealistically...
That's an interesting question. You made the point earlier that, do we want Medicare? You raised the specter of government inefficiency. I want to let you know that Medicare has one of the best administrative costs compared to any insurance company in the country today.
Doctors in handcuffs who rip off, they write things on a line and they make all this money.
Let me just finish the point. We see the specter of this all the time in every part of our society. 3 doctors, isolated cases, do not explain a program. Most people in this country today who are on Medicare are getting excellent service by their physicians, by their hospitals, and by their intermediaries and by the program. It runs at a very efficient level, more efficient than any insurance company in this country.
Doesn't coverage promote unnecessary pills, unnecessary injections, unnecessary procedures?
Let me throw the question to you. You go into a doctor's office and the doctor says to you, you, Phil Donahue, or your wife or your child, you have cancer. They have cancer. God forbid. We hope that doesn't happen. And he says or she says to you that you have to go for a routine of x-rays, drugs, to this specialist, to that specialist. Let me ask you, you follow his or her advice as your personal physician. You've been with them for years. You do that. Do you consider that excessive utilization? And do we want to penalize you for following physicians' advice?
First of all, I would like to know how many tests it took them to determine what my pathology. That's number 1. 2, I'd like to know how many black boxes they have put in their office so they can send me another bill and make another test that is not necessary. That's another problem. I want to know how often they invade my body and put needles in my arm unnecessarily because they have to take a blood test because they have to prove that they did so that the guy won't sue them.
All perfectly legitimate questions.
I mean, this whole thing is awful.
All perfectly legitimate questions, but are you going to be the one to make those medical judgments? Look at the GM retirees. They're facing $750 deductibles. As retirees on fixed incomes, they simply can't afford that. Corporations are saying, let's shift the cost to the retirees. That's our answer.
I'm foursquare against that.
Now I think it's time for corporations and unions and consumers to finally go to Capitol Hill in Washington to say to the government, now is the time for action, because we're not going to take it anymore.
Sorry. I'll give you a chance in just a moment.
If this is happening to these dedicated people now, and we're the baby boomers, what do we have to look forward to?
I'm telling you.
We can stop it now.
And not only that, when you get to be my age, we may not have any room for you. There'll be too many of us.
Bill?
Who's going to, what?
I want to bring this to the eyes of the public.
Yeah.
You're not mine workers, pensioners, widows, thing. Do you think that Island Creek Coal Company...
provided and promotional fees paid by the following.